We are heading to the championship rounds.
Going into the championship round. This is it now, championship rounds.
This is the Championship Rounds podcast, and this is episode 4. Today we're breaking down UFC 217, Bisping versus St. Pierre. I'm just going to jump straight into it. I'm going to talk about the 5 main card fights and give my predictions. Don't hold me to my predictions because they change a lot leading up to fights. So, and it's MMA at the end of the day. I'm not going to get them 100% right, but I'm going to try. So the card starts off with Johnny Hendricks versus Paulo Borrachina. That pronunciation was probably absolutely awful, but I'm not from Brazil. So Johnny Hendricks, big rig himself. Johnny Hendricks has had a lot of trouble making weight in his last couple of fights. 34 years of age, coming towards the end of his career. Doesn't look like he has the same passion that he used to for it. I feel at this point he's doing it as, more of a job than a passion. He's coming up against a man who's undefeated early on in his career. A great prospect, perfectly in shape. Looks almost a polar opposite of Johnny Hendricks. Johnny Hendricks isn't in the best form. He's lost 4 of his last 5 fights. They were against, if my memory serves me right, Tim Bosch. He lost to Neil Magny. He lost to Kevin Gastelum and Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. So I don't feel Johnny Hendricks has got much more to offer to the UFC or MMA world. So for this one, I'm going to go against Johnny Hendricks and I'm going to back Paulo. So the next fight on the card is Stephen Wonderboy Thompson versus Jorge Masvidal. This is a fight. I am so excited for this fight. We've got Stephen Thompson, the second ranked welterweight in the world, versus Jorge Masvidal, who's 4th ranked. So Wonderboy has a record of 13-1-1. That loss and draw comes to Tyrone Woodley, both by decision, both fights that, maybe you won't go and watch back. Not great dance partners, but 2 great fighters. He's coming up against Gamebred, who's got a lot of momentum behind him lately, and he's maybe a fight or 2 fights away from a title shot. He lost his last fight to Damian Maia, but before that he picked up a run of wins against Donald Cerrone, Jake Ellenberger, and Ross Pearson. So there's a lot of hype behind Jorge Masvidal. Maybe I'm not the biggest Jorge Masvidal fan because I think he's yet to prove, make a big statement for himself, but a win against Wonderboy would be massive. Do I think he's going to get the win? It's a tough call, but I'm going to go with Wonderboy on this one. I feel Wonderboy is just an absolute incredible striker. I think he's the ultimate professional. Masvidal has been in, I think, over 40 fights. He's experienced wins, a lot of wins and a lot of losses. Wonderboy just looks like he's destined for the title, and in terms of skill, he's one of the very best. So I'm going to go with Wonderboy on this one. Next up, we have Joanna Jędrzejczyk of Poland, the champion of the women's strawweight, and Rose Namajunas from the United States, ranked 4th. Now, I'm pretty sure you're going to agree with me here that I'm going for Joanna Jędrzejczyk win. 14-0. I really just can't see anyone in the division beating this girl. I think she's just going to continue to clean out the division and go unbeaten. 14-0 is an incredible record. I think if anyone has a chance of coming close to Demetrius Johnson's title defense record, then maybe it's Joanna, because there's not a lot of women in the division that you think could give her too many problems. She recently saw off Jessica Andrade, Carolina, Claudia Gadea. I think this is her fifth title defense. So, and I think there's quite a few more yet to come. Obviously, Thug Rose is a great fighter. I don't think we've seen her at the very best yet. She has a couple of impressive wins. She come off beating Michelle Waterson in her last fight. She also got wins against, good names such as Paige Van Zandt. So she's not completely, you can't completely say Joanna's you wouldn't bet your life on it, but I'd come pretty close to it. I think Joanna will finish Rose within, it was in the first 3 rounds. So the co-main event, we've got Cody Garbrandt, TJ Dillashaw. This is one of my favourite fights of the year. We've got 2 former teammates, 2 former training partners, and some of the baddest blood between any 2 fighters in the UFC. They absolutely hate each other. Cody hates TJ for leaving Team Alpha Male and going to join Dwayne Ludwig. He constantly calls him a snake. The 2 coached on the Ultimate Fighter series. And there was a lot of confrontation. I mean, Cody grabbed TJ around the throat. There's just been so much trash talk, and the fight was delayed because Cody had back problems, but now it's finally coming, and I can't wait. This is such a hard fight to call. Cody's 11-0. TJ's 15-3, I think. It's a hard one to call because, we've seen Cody, he beat Dominic Cruz, one of the greatest fighters in the UFC, so that's fantastic. But because Cody made such a jump from not being one of the top contenders to beating the champion, it's hard to judge what he's actually made of when he comes up against the top talent. I know he beat Dominic Cruz, but a couple more fights against top-tier talent would have been a good indicator. Whereas TJ Dillashaw has been fighting a lot of top-tier talent. I mean, he's fought Dominic Cruz before. He's beaten John Lineker. He's fought John Dodson on the Ultimate Fighter, and he's been champion before and he defended it twice. So we know that TJ, can pose can handle the highest level. I don't know if is emotion going to play a big factor in this fight. I think Cody especially is caught up in such an emotion, and he probably feels more pressure than TJ because he's got the whole of Team Alpha Male riding on his shoulders. He's not fighting for himself. He's fighting for Uriah Faber and all the guys. Whereas TJ is being sort of painted as the villain in this rivalry, so he probably has a lot less pressure on his shoulders and go out there and focus on his performance rather than the stress of the occasion. And Chael Sonnen said last week, Kevin Lee, he really felt the stress of the occasion, and that took his biggest toll. That was the main factor of why he got so tired and ultimately lost. So I really can't call this one. I think, in terms of striking, Cody outstrikes TJ, but I'm worried that, on the ground, I can see TJ getting a submission. But then again, Cody's got a really good I think he's got 100% takedown defense. Cool. It's tough to call. I'm going to go with Cody to win. I might be a bit biased because I'm a Cody Garbrandt fan, so maybe I think Cody Garbrandt by decision. That's how I think that fight's going to go. On to the main event. Michael Bisping, George St. Pierre. The long-awaited return of George Rush St. Pierre against the middleweight champion Michael the Count Bisping. Michael Bisping is one of my all-time favourite fighters. Most wins in the UFC. A real seasoned vet of the sport. Coming up against arguably, in a lot of people's mind, the best the UFC has ever seen. But 4 years off, ring rust. Again, Chael Sonnen, he didn't believe in ring rust, but when he fought Tito Ortiz, he admitted that it is a real thing. So I think that's going to play a massive factor in this fight. Like I said on a previous episode of the podcast, I don't know where George's head is at. I know he said he suffers with OCD, and he claimed that aliens were abducting him and things like that. So I'm not sure where he's at in a mental state, but I know where Michael Bisping is in a mental state. He's 100% focused on fighting. A lot of people are tipping him to retire, but he recently said in today's press conference that he's not thinking about retirement at all. This is the best camp he's ever had. That he's treated, he's approached the camp with a lot of respect for George. He's had no distractions this time like he did when he fought Dan Henderson, where he was shooting a movie halfway through, so he's been fully focused. And I think we're going to see the best of Michael Bisping, and I think that Michael Bisping is going to finish George St. Pierre. I think he's going to knock him out, and I think you'll see a title retained and Bisping's hand being raised at the end of it. I think it's, I'm fairly confident Bisping's going to win. I mean, obviously George is going to try and shoot and take Michael to the ground, but Michael said he's been hammering takedown defense in practice. He's had wrestlers shooting on him and him really stuffing the takedowns, and he knows exactly what George is going to do. Jab, jab, double leg. Michael, he thinks he has the perfect, he's going to have no problems with this, so I think Michael Bisping is going to win. I'm not actually sure who the favourites are in this fight in terms of bookmakers, but I'm going to look it up now, and I'll take all my predictions and tell you what the odds would say in terms of my predictions and how good I've done. So let's have a look. So my predictions are Cody Garbrandt, Michael Bisping. George St. Pierre is actually the betting favourite. I don't understand that at all. I'm really confident in Michael Bisping, so I don't understand George St. Pierre being having 4 years off. I don't know how that makes him betting favourite against someone who's more experienced in this sport than a lot of people in the UFC. And Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. So apparently they don't do odds on any other fights apart from the Wonderboy fight and the two main events. For some reason, they haven't done odds for Joanna and Jacek and the Johnny Hendricks fight. So anyway, the Cody Garbrandt, Michael Bisping, and Stephen Wonderboy Thompson are my three predictions there, and that's 5-1. So it's an outside. My predictions are outside, but so obviously I'm going against the grain here, but I'm pretty confident in my picks. Maybe not so much in the Cody Garbrandt fight, but I'm still going with Cody. So there are my predictions for UFC 217. Let me know yours in the comments, or tweet me at ChampRoundsPod, or on Instagram at Championship Rounds Podcast. Thank you for listening. I recently started a second podcast all about football, or soccer if you will. That's called Over the Line Podcast, so I'll leave a link to that in the description if anyone's a football soccer fan out there. So anyway, thank you for listening. Can't wait for UFC 217. Hope you guys enjoyed this, and that's going to do it for this one.